there is something that bass players are denying themselves in bass education and in the learning of bass. They're denying themselves the dirt and the grit of musical improvement. And what I mean is this. Everybody from my generation learned in the dirty experience of making mistakes, sounding bad, amps blowing, misstep things, not sure what to do. Today's, and this is my opinion, today's sanitized music education and preparation of musicians has sanitized their playing so much, it's almost like using antibacterial soap, which they now recommend you don't do because the antibacterial soap kills the good bacteria along with the bad one. Here's how you play a blues, they say. You don't need to go to school to play a blues. And I say this because in history, there isn't one bass player that went to school to play the blues. Here's how you play these rock songs. You don't need to, because in history, you probably won't find a single successful rock bass player who went to school to learn how to play rock. What I'm saying is there's no history to support the methods that bass education is teaching, except saying that we're going to help you to do it. So with the electronic tuners, which is a lack of ear, the ensembles and lessons and classes in style, there have no bass players that have learned style in a school, except maybe jazz, which is a harmonic music. So you're learning the harmony. Latin music perhaps too. Other than that, the methods and manner that people are teaching have sanitized bass so much, it's practically a guarantee that bass players are not going to work. And I say again by the statistics, it's a famous statistic. People go to some of the most famous schools, the most famous bass events, the most famous teachers, the most famous opportunities, solos in tab, solos, all this stuff. They're not working. In part because the industry isn't that interested in us anymore, and in the second part because they have not learned the fine and necessary gritty element of music, that thing that makes us unique. And the education, while sanitizing, I think they have things we'll have a bass styles classes in lots of schools now. You learn the styles of McCartney and James Jamerson and Jaco Pastorius and this and that. Recognize that Paul McCartney never listened to jazz, never listened to the guys that are being offered to teachers. These guys listen to, McCartney listened to rock and skiffle. I mean, that's pretty much it, American blues. Jaco is an enigma because he listened to everything, but Jamerson was a jazz player. Chris Scrier was a rock and listened to that. What's his name? Lemmy was a rocker. You go through any of these bass players and recognize that unless they chose to listen to other guys, most guys stuck into their styles. So you're not going to get better because I tell you to listen to 8, 9, 10 bass players. You're going to get better if you're a rocker and that's your interest, is to be self-taught and to listen to the rock records that befit the style of music that you love. You're not going to get better by listening to Oscar Pettiford or Ron Carter. It ain't going to do you any good at all. So if you wish as an artist to do it, or a self-taught guy, but rock education and a lot of these music education, bass education, has cleaned up bass so much, am I going around the barn too many times? That unfortunately it is sanitized right out of base of education your chance of actually improving significantly, getting employment, and further, you could have done it all for free if you had the interest to pursue bass as everybody has done. I mean, I'm not saying something that can't be validated by going into the history of all bass players. It's easy to see. Go down a list of 100 top rockers and look at every name and look and see how they learned. And I will guarantee you that they didn't go to school to learn contemporary approaches to bass. And that's why I suggest to people, don't do it, which infuriates educators with me because I'm messing with their business. I don't want to hurt them, but I want young people to recognize that they're not, in my opinion again, being sold correctly. The generation today, they call it a broad-based education, but education is a narrow thing. You ever learn a second language? It's narrow. You know, in Spanish, I go to the beach. Yo voy a la playa. You go to the beach. Tú vas a la playa. Education is narrow. Driving lessons is narrow. Look over your shoulder, put the thing in gear, go. There isn't a broad-based approach to driving. There isn't a broad-based, even cooking is narrow. Because before you can make bouillabaisse à la zorge la bouge la mort, which is my favorite food, by the way, this sauce is made by adding this, you mix it this way, and this is what congeals into this gelatin to make a roux, basic. Take a little butter, whatever, a little flour, and heat it up. Learning is a narrow approach. It's not a broad approach. And to prove it, there's so much broad-based approach, people aren't getting better. No one, it seems, to ask why. There, I've done it. Sorry for the long-winded thing, but I'm passionate about this, and I hope I help.